Mental narratives are stories that we tell ourselves that are based on a very subjective interpretation of reality. So, for example, believing that things are happening to me or for me is a mental narrative because the underlying assumption here is that the universe has some grand master plan or agenda when actually only ego makes plans and has agendas. In consciousness, events in the universe unfold according to the laws of nature and physics. So here's what happens when I fall into the trap of believing that things are happening to me or for me. I inevitably go into the mind and look for the why in everything because that's just what the mind does. It looks for reasons to make meaning out of our experiences. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but here's where it gets tricky. When I ask why and I engage the mind in this way, what happens is I create a story or a narrative around my interpretation of reality, which only represents a very subjective version of the truth. Because 99.99% of my reality is filtered through my past and my conditioning. Now, it's okay to do this. It doesn't mean that my truth is wrong. It just means that my truth is relative. What trips me up is when I take my relative truth and believe it to be the absolute truth. In which case, I sort of live in like this self-hypnosis state where I think that I'm right and everybody else is wrong, which then leads to judgments and dogma and all of these other things that only reinforce the separate sense of self. But who am I to know with any certainty what the absolute truth is? I'm just consciousness, and consciousness does not speculate, interpret, analyze, reflect, wonder, contemplate. Consciousness just embodies isness, and isness is the only truth there is. Somebody asked me, well, how does this relate to the idea that things are happening for me because I have soul lessons and I will keep repeating the same mistakes until I learn those soul lessons. So kind of like karma, which is a great question. So here's how I see it. Every morning, I wake up with a certain inner image, my self-image. And my self-image is based on who I believe I am according to my past and my conditioning. And this self-image is pretty much solidified in me by the time I was 7 years old. So I could be 34 years old, and if I have an inner image of myself as a little fat kid, which I did, by the way, then I will move and function in my daily life through this inner image. After some time, this inner image becomes my outer image because this is how I present myself to the world as a little fat kid. And if I'm relating to the world as a little fat kid, then guess what? This inner image is going to get projected out onto the world. And then I'm going to subconsciously recreate situations that reinforce this subjective lie that I hold as an absolute truth. Are you following me? Then I will live by this mental narrative that men don't want to date me because I'm fat. So then I might subconsciously go after men with really nice bodies because it makes me feel validated. And then the whole relationship is based on a lie, so it doesn't last, not surprisingly. And then I'm left wondering why I keep going after men who don't want to date me. True story. As long as we keep resisting what is and only seeing reality through our subjective mental narratives, then yes, we will keep repeating the same mistake. Mistakes don't happen because the universe is trying to teach us a lesson. Mistakes happen because we cut ourselves off from the universe. That's why it's so important to know yourself in an intimate way, not just as an identity, but as a direct experience, so that you can stay open to allowing the universe to express itself through you instead of creating mental, imaginary obstacles where none exist. So drop me a comment and let me know, what do your mental narratives tell you about your self-image? And what lies are you ready to let go?